We are speaking with Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky from Illinois. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, David.
What's your impression of the conference from the time you've spent here today? Is it positive? Is it scared?
I've only been here for a little while, but progressives are a tough bunch. I've been to probably every one of these conferences, and clearly it doesn't have the euphoria of a new Obama administration, because that's never possible. Governing is tough.
And it's not new anymore, right?
And it's not new anymore. But I think that this is always an incubator for all kinds of new strategies for organizing, for messaging, and so I think there's a kind of roll up your sleeves and let's make sure we keep it going in the November elections.
My impression has been, and I don't know if it's just harder to motivate people when there's not a presidential election, even though the election coming up in November could still be very big. Do you feel like that may be a factor, that when there's a presidential election coming up where one party can take back the White House, so to speak, that it's easier to get people motivated?
Well, there's no question, and I don't know that in my lifetime I'll ever see such a motivated electorate as I saw for the Obama election. But this election is definitely going to hinge on turnout, who actually comes to the polls. And when we make up our mind to it, we're pretty good at that. We know, and especially since the Organizing for America, which was Obama for America, is still an organization that exists and has all the ability to reach out to people, that we're going to be able to mobilize our folks just through the nitty-gritty hard work. And of course, as you said, there's certainly a lot of huge issues on the table that make it worth it for people to go to the polls. The choices are just enormous right now. It's about are we going to go back to the failed policies, or we're going to actually move ahead in the right direction? I think one of the ways to sell this thing is to say, for example, meet Congressman Paul Ryan. If the Republicans win, he'll be head of the Budget Committee. He wants to eliminate Medicare and turn it into a voucher program. Is that a good idea? Is that what you want?
We definitely know about some of the risks, especially if the Democrats lose seats to Republicans. But in thinking about some of the primary races that are going on within the Democratic Party, sometimes I get a little concerned that when there are more progressive candidates that are challenging incumbent Democrats, that if they do win, they're not necessarily going to be better candidates, or at least more likely to win in November in the general election. And it's obviously much easier to get excitement going with the idea of change, as we saw Barack Obama do. Then we get to November, and they may lose the seat altogether to a Republican. Is that a concern to you with some of these primaries?
No, actually not. I think that, well, first of all, some of the incumbents, I think, are clearly are going to win. It's certainly a challenge, by the way, for the Republicans as well, because the Tea Party candidates, where they win, they may have a really narrow general election base to pull from, and it would be hard for them to go after the independents. But I think that one of the factors is going to be exciting our base enough to be able to get our reliable voters out in a place like Illinois, where we are essentially a blue state.
Sure,
we're going to need, and we do have candidates who are very clear on their positions on the issues and distinguish themselves very clearly from the Republicans.
How well did you know Barack Obama before he was even a senator, being from Illinois?
Well, I served with him when he was a state senator. I was in the House of Representatives when he was in the Illinois House, when he was in the state Senate, and so I knew him then. So what's that? Probably going on 14 years. So I was very involved in his U.S. Senate campaign in the primary,
right,
and then one of the co-chairs of his presidential campaign.
Do you think that, I'm hearing from a lot of listeners, that something he was doing really well during the campaign, and they can't always identify exactly what it is, he's not doing now in terms of connecting with people, in terms of inspiring the same hope and just kind of mobilizing and inspiring people to get active. Can you identify anything that he's doing differently? Do you disagree that he's doing anything differently? What do you think is going on?
Well, I think, electing somebody, the peak of euphoria is always that election night where your candidate wins, and then you have to get down to the nitty-gritty of actually governing. I think one of the problems we've had is that we haven't, and I'm not sure exactly why, been able to communicate all the positives. Now, there's people out there, blah, 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 sounds like a politician, but it's just an empirical fact that this session of Congress and these first 2 years of the administration have been the most productive in the recent history of our country.
Measured
in terms of the number of pieces of legislation that have been passed, significant pieces of legislation dealing with health care, with the environment, with jobs, with our dramatic changes in our foreign policy and our foreign policy philosophy. And yet, it's like there's still this feeling that what are we really accomplishing? I mean, just the healthcare legislation alone and the changes that it's going to mean, not in a couple of years, but right now, for children with pre-existing conditions or kids who can stay now on their policies, and small businesses that'll be able to afford it. I mean, just dramatic things.
Many of at least our listeners agree that a lot significant has happened, but especially over the last 3 months, I mean, the amount of email we get, and it's just one barometer, every different show is going to have a different audience, and the letters you get, I'm sure, would vary, has really been that people don't seem to be as inspired that the president is, I hate to use this term, the decider, in the same way that maybe George W. Bush was making the wrong decisions, I want to make clear. Is that demeanor? Is that because it's much easier to talk about all the things you'll do before you're elected, and then you've got to do them one by one? I mean, what do you think?
With all due respect, I'm going to say get off your ass and organize then. The easiest thing to do is to sit back and, woe is me, and how come he isn't doing this, and I'm so disappointed. And, it used to be, how do I love thee, let me count the ways, Barack Obama.
Sure.
And now it's, let me count all my disappointments. Well, you know what, we need, and he said this from the start, if people don't stay involved, then the change isn't going to happen. It is hard. We've got all the same corporate interests. We have all the same enemies out there poking at them and spending huge dollars. Look at BP and the full-page ads, which is so outrageous that they're taking out right now. Look at the Supreme Court decision that now lets corporations get involved in political advertising, just like, the same rights as individuals. Well, these are really hard things to fight. So get up and do something about it.
Instead of emailing me.
Don't stop emailing David and get involved in a campaign so that we don't lose control of the House of Representatives. Elect as progressive a candidate as you can. But I'm just pretty sick of progressives being in the business of pointing out all the mistakes and not lifting a finger to work harder.
Absolutely. And my last question, because I know you have to go, on the issue of BP, I saw this, seeing through all of the bad and horrible components of what's going on in Louisiana, as an opportunity for Barack Obama to really push and say, this is now the time for alternative energy, and to become the energy president. George W. Bush had an opportunity. He wasn't interested. He didn't do it. Barack Obama still could. Do you think this is the time? And what could he do right now that he's not doing in terms of alternative energy?
This absolutely is the time right now. I just came back from Louisiana today. This is a catastrophe of biblical proportions that's going on right now, and if we don't use it as an opportunity to say that we not only have to wean ourselves from foreign oil, but we have to wean ourselves from oil altogether. But I also want to say, people say, where's the passion? I want to tell you something. Barack Obama is who he is, and if you're looking for the kind of dramatic passion, that's not who he is.
Well, but he was during the campaign.
No, people talked about how he was too cool. Where was he in the debates? He's not, not passionate enough. I mean, I think that the kind of deliberate, but don't mistake that for not having a steely spine. He has a steely spine, but he's not a real emotional guy. He doesn't have these wide swings of demonstrable emotion. What did Ron Gibbs? It was like, he clenched his jaw. If we start getting into that, that's ridiculous. But on the policy front, this is an opportunity to coolly and I think persuasively say, look, Americans, this is not going to be the only situation if we don't do something about this. We're going to have these kinds of disasters, and so let's move ahead, make those kinds of investments that we need to do right now to set ourselves on this new, and pass the energy bill, for crying out loud, in the Senate, and let's get moving. There's no time to waste.
We've been speaking with Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky from Illinois. Thank you so much.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Midweek Politics is brought to you in part by Jackson & Connor, classically modern men's apparel in Northampton, Massachusetts, on the second floor of Thorne's Marketplace. By DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. And by Shentrition.com, provider of all-natural superfood and adaptogenic herbal blend at Shentrition.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.